Hello and thank you for coming to my channel. This is Rick's Garage, and today I'm going to continue on with the build of the Yamaha XV1600 RoadStar Custom in 1/12 scale by Tamiya, and we're going to start this from step 16. Now hopefully we're going to go all the way to step 23, which would complete this build, but we'll see how things go. Now if you haven't seen my other two videos for this build, for steps 1 to 9 and 10 to 15, I put a link in the descriptions below to those videos for you. Now with all that being said, without any further ado, let's get started. Okay, so this is what we've completed so far. We have our engine in our frame, we've got our rear wheel attached, and the fender on top of the rear wheel is also attached, and we also have our exhaust system in. So all looking just like that. And then on our last stage at the end of 15, we ended up completing the fork assembly. We have our handlebar in, looking just like that. Now I haven't really glued any of this in yet because I want to see how the windshield is going to go in first, and I don't really always glue in my handles because during construction those things can break, but on this type of an assembly I don't think that that is going to be too much of a problem. And as you can see, this one hose came out, so we'll get that right back in. I'm going to also glue this in a little bit later, but that hose goes right under this lug right back here. Just like that. So I'm going to glue all that in probably a little bit later as this build gets more complete and get all this all done. But that is the fork assembly basically all completed. And in step 16, we're going to start working on the fuel tank, and that's just going to be as simple as putting these two pieces together just like this, gluing that together, sanding it down, priming it, and then painting. So it's going to go something like that. So let me get that all assembled, painted up, and come back and show what that looks like. Okay, here's the gas tank all assembled, and I've been working on the seam mainly in this area right here to try to hide it and sand it all down, make it all nice and smooth, because this area right in through here, all this part right in through here is going to be covered by a cap that we're going to put on the gas tank. So I'm not really concerned about this area as much as I am concerned over this area of wanting to hide that seam. And I've been using Tamiya white putty for that. So I've got it all sanded down, and now I'm ready to put on a layer of Tamiya white primer. And then once that's all dry, if there's any more sanding that needs to be done, or if I need to still work on that seam right there, I'll do that and then repeat the process until that seam disappears, at which point I'll put on the top layer. So I'll come back and show you what the end result is. Okay, so here's the gas tank all painted up in the color that it's calls for in the instructions. Now there's two different types of colors you can do. You can do an A version or you can do a B version. And the A version is with the gold, which is the version that I'm doing. And the B version, I think, is a purple color that you can paint this in. But I'm doing the gold version. So this is how this looks. And I did a really good job on hiding that seam. You can't see the seam there. But I'm not going to do anything with it today because we have to do some masking to it in order to mask off these areas here and then give it a spray of black paint. And I'm not going to do that today because I've learned that if I don't wait 24 hours after painting and I'm going to do some masking, I'll get some adhesive marks on my paint. So I don't want that to happen. So I'm going to give this another day to dry. So tomorrow morning I'll be working on that, and then we'll be moving on. Okay, so I'm at the point now where I'm going to do some masking for the gas tank, and these masks that they give you are not laser cut. You're going to have to cut them out. And just in case I make a mistake in the masking and the painting, I went ahead and scanned this. And this is the scan right here, and I'm now just tracing out the mask and onto some Tamiya masking tape, and now I'm going to go ahead and remove that off the paper. I tried not to actually put the tape on the paper firmly. I just wanted it placed on the tape, or excuse me, on the paper. And now I'm going to remove that tape. Hopefully I don't let it curl onto itself. And then I'm going to put it onto my cutting board like that and cut out my mask. Okay, now that's the A mask on, looking like that. And what I did was I lined it up here in order to get this nice and straight. It comes all the way down to the bottom, nice and flush. And then these two wings right here just fall into place where they should go, like that. Now don't worry too much about a nice straight line. That could be fixed later if it doesn't come out to be straight or you're not really satisfied with it. But this is a good starting point right here. Now don't worry too much about this area in through here, because when you put this piece on, this lug is going to go through that hole, and I'm just going to very loosely put it in. You'll notice that it's going to cover up most of this down here. So you're only worried about this area and through this area right here. Okay, now we have two more masks that we have to put on. These right here, and they're going to start from this end and move their way around this way all the way back up to the top. Okay, so this is where I'm at with the masking. And you'll notice I'm using some white vinyl tape here, and this is the tape I'm using. And I'm placing that vinyl tape just at the very edge of the yellow masking that I have on there that I've cut out in the pattern that it needs to be. And the reason for that is that no matter how much I try on these masks that we have to use sometimes, I can never really get a nice straight edge. So I'm using this this white masking vinyl tape in order to create that nice straight edge that I need between the two colors, which in this case is going to be black is everything that's been exposed, and then we're protecting the gold. I haven't masked this off yet because I wanted to show you how I'm doing that masking. So here I just got it underneath or just below the yellow masking edge so that I have that nice straight edge. So I'm going to go ahead now and complete the masking of this area over here, and then I'm going to apply the black color. Now remember, this area here we really don't have to worry too much about, because when we put this on like this, I'm not going to do it all the way through, it's going to hide like 99% of all that. Okay, so I'm going to go out and spray this in black after I get this all messed up, and I'll come back and show you what the end result looks like. Okay, there is our gas tank all painted up in the colors that is called for in the instructions, and that masking came out just perfect, as you can see. So that's how that should look once it's all masked off and painted. So the next step now is to put on a clear coat on this to prepare it for the decals that we need to put on it. And then after the decals, I'll put another couple of layers of clear on that to protect the decals and also to give this a little bit more of a shine that I'm looking for it. And then after all that, we'll continue on to the next step. Okay, now we're ready to start to work on step 18 to get the final bits on the gas tank, and then a couple of more pieces on the bike and attach the gas tank to the bike. In terms of the gas tank, there really isn't any photo reference on how this really should come out in terms of the design between the black and the gold. I just went with how the masks were applied and how they form naturally around the part, and also too on how the decal went on. But that's how my gas tank came out. Whether it's right or wrong, I don't know, but that's what I'm going to go with. And then these pieces right here that you see, I'm going to zoom in a little bit more. They want you to paint the word RoadStar in black and then do a couple of detail painting on the actual chrome piece. And I did that, but you're probably not going to be able to see it very well on this because of the shininess of the chrome. But I did paint the word RoadStar on there, and the way that I did that was I took a Q-tip like this, I dipped it in paint, and then I took the excess of the paint, I rubbed that off onto a paper towel, so I was doing more like a dry brush, and then I just took my Q-tip and then just rolled it on top of the part here, on top of the word RoadStar, and I kept on doing that until the lettering came out in black. But like I said, it's so small and so shiny against the chrome, it's really, really hard to see it. But I did achieve that, so that's how I did it. And then we'll go ahead and get that on the gas tank. Looks like we got a couple of decals we need to also get on there. So let me get all these other pieces painted and ready to get onto the bike, and we'll come back and I'll show what that all looks like. Okay, so for this part here to go into the gas tank, it's pretty simple to do. This lug right here is going to go through this hole right there, and then this little tiny lug right here is going to go into this little tiny hole here on the gas tank. So this is just going to go on just like this. If I get my hand on it, there we go. And this is a tight fit, so I don't think any glue is really going to be needed on this. As I push this into the gas tank, so this is going to go on like that. It's going to be a tight fit, so we're going to take your time getting that in. Okay, now once you have that in place, it does snap in, but once that is snapped into place, that's how that looks. Okay, what you're looking at here is the decal that's going on to the gas tank, and this is the speedometer, and this is not an easy decal because the decal itself is larger than the hole that it needs to go into. So you're going to have to take your time to conform the decal to the space that it needs to go in. And I was using some Q-tip here, dipped in water, so that I can press it down into the position that I wanted it in. And what I tried to do is that the very top number here is 60, and I tried to align that up with a hole here so that I can get this decal to go in straight, which I think I've done. Now once the decal is more or less conformed to the area that it needs to go in, I'm going to let it just sit there and naturally dry. And then I'm going to use quite a bit probably of Tamiya Mark Fit Strong to completely conform that decal into the area that it needs to go. And then once that's done, we then need to take a clear part, which is this part right here, and that's going to go right over that decal. So that's going to be a glass on top of the speedometer. And the way I'm going to get that glass clear part in is this: I'm just going to put just a very little bit of clear, crystal clear on there so that it doesn't fog up the clear part. And when it dries, it will dry nice and clear so that you won't see any glue residue. So that's what I'm going to do with that once I get to that clear part. But I just wanted to show you that decal and give you a little bit of a heads up that that decal is larger than the hole that it needs to go in, and you just need to take your time. Okay, now that we have all of our bits that we need to have on our gas tank, so looking just like that, we need to put the gas tank onto the bike. And the way this is going to go is that underneath the gas tank there is this lug hole right here. And that's going to line up to this lug right here on the bike. I'm bringing this up so you can see it. And then this lug here is going to appear into this hole right here on your gas tank. And on the back of the tank you have these two bits right back here, and they're going to squeeze in between these two areas right here. So this is going to go on something like this. I don't think it's going to snap in. I think it's just going to be placed in. So just kind of push it down a little bit in order to get that lug that's right underneath this silver part of the gas tank seated, and then position your two ends back here between those two posts. Okay, that was not easy to do, but I did get that in. You can see the two posts right there are pinched into the bike there. That is just not easy to get in. You just got to wiggle it in and try to do your best to snap it. Once it's in, you can feel it snap into place. And then you can lower the gas tank down into position. But that's how that should look once that's installed. But that was not an easy piece to put in. Okay, now next we need to put these two pieces in, and they're going to go in right through here. There's a lug here that's going to go into a hole here, and then this is going to conform into a space right there. So the way this is going to work is that you're going to take your piece here, and there's the hole right here, and this is going to go in something like that. If I can get that in there. That's going to go in something like this. So let me get that in and I'll come back and show you what that looks like. Okay, and that's how they look once they're installed, looking just like that. You know, it's kind of hard to see when it's black on black, but that's how they should go. These end pieces back here, they go underneath this bar right here. So this piece here that we just put in, this back area goes underneath this bar. And they should just slip very easily right in. And that completes step 18. Okay, in step 19, we're going to attach our front fork and our tire to the, or wheel to the bike. We have a couple of detail parts that we need to put in. Now the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to take this piece here, which is going to go on the front edge of this frame, which is this piece right here, which I've already got the hose attached. And it's going to be a lot easier to put this in before you put this on. And then we also have this hose that's going to attach down here. And then we attach this piece. And then we have a cap that's going to go into the screw hole that's going to attach the fork to the bike. So what I thought was interesting is that the hose for this and the two hoses for this are going right into the gas tank. Maybe they're fuel lines of some sort, I don't know, or maybe on the real bike they've got to attach to something. But I kind of thought that was kind of interesting that these three hoses just slip underneath the gas tank. So the way I'm going to do this piece here is that this is going to go, there's a little bit of a space right here. Right underneath here is where there's a space. And I'm just going to take this piece and the hose, I'm going to guide it into the gas tank like that, and then I'm going to attach it to the front of the bike just like that. There is a notch right here on this bar right here, and that notch is going to accommodate this lug right here. So let me get this in and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, now looking at this piece more carefully, there is a large lug here, and there is a small ridge right here. So there's a void between those two, and that's where the bar is going to go on the bike. So on the bike, it's going to look like that. Okay, now this piece right here has a lug on the back right there, and there's a little bit of tiny lug right here at the very top. That's going to line up to this lug right here and that little indent right there. And that's how that looks. Okay, now it's time to put our fork and front wheel assembly onto the bike. And the way this is going to go on is that there's a screw hole here at the top, and there's a screw hole here. And then this bottom screw hole right here is going to line up with the screw hole right here. That screw hole right there. So this is going to go on looking like this. Looking just like that, and we're going to secure that in with a 1.6 by 20 mil screw. Okay, there's our front wheel and fork attached to the bike, looking like that. And let me tell you, that was hard to get this in. The most difficult part of this was to get these hoses to go underneath the gas tank. That was hard. Those hoses just would not want to go in. They kept on catching. I ended up lifting the gas tank up just a little bit to get those hoses in there, and then I glued the hoses just to something underneath the gas tank. But anyway, that's it. That's our fork and our front assembly onto the bike. And then I also attached this hose here, running down this way, all the way down this way, and then leading up to a lug that you see right down there. I don't know if the camera can see that or not, but that's right down in there. Okay, so that completes, and then I'll put that little part up into here a little bit later, which is this part here that we need to put in. But other than that, that completes step 19. Okay, now in step 20, we have a whole bunch of sub-assemblies that we need to do. We've got our windshield, we've got our light assembly, our front and our rear, we have our seat, and we have our saddlebags. And there is a photo etch mod that we can do for this, and for the windshield, and that's right here. And you'll notice that there's these photo etch parts that we can put on the side right here, and this photo etch part can go around this area right here. And this is the windshield right here. I don't know if you can see that because it's clear plastic, but the only way that I know to attach metal to plastic is using super glue, and super glue fogs up clear plastic. So if there's another glue out there that I can use that does not clear up, or excuse me, fog up the clear part, and it can be used for metal on plastic, let me know in the comment section below. I don't know of any. I've always been using super glue, so I'm going to skip this right here. I think this is kind of interesting that Hobby Design would design photo etch parts for clear plastic, knowing that super glue is going to fog all this up. Now, this windshield is curved, and even if I pre-curved or pre-formed this part right here, it's still going to fog up. You're going to have some glue, a lot of glue, not just a little tiny dot right here and there. You're going to need some glue to help keep that form in place, plus the fact they want you to use these rivets to go along the top, all along the top up here. So that's additional glue that's going to be used. And those rivets are going to go probably through this plastic. So that was another concern I had. But regardless of all that, putting super glue on clear plastic is going to fog up your clear. So I'm not going to do this right here. But again, if you know of a glue that can be used, please let me know in the comment section. In the meantime, I'm going to get all these parts cut off the sprue, sanded down, painted, and we'll come back and finish the assembly. Okay, now step 20 really isn't all that complicated. All you have to do is just follow the instructions very carefully and then paint them in the colors that they call for. This right here is our windshield, and that went on just fine. I used micro crystal clear to get those on, and I'm not really too worried about the glue residue back here for the micro crystal clear. For some reason that didn't really clear up, but we're not going to see that anyway after the windshield is attached to the bike. So that went on just fine. And then with our lights here, you just got to make sure that you pay attention to exactly how the lenses are going in. They all need to be oriented exactly the same, and there are notches in the piece. There's a notch right here, there's a little bit of a lug right down in here, and there's a notch here and a notch here for these lenses as well. So you just want to make sure that when you put it in those clear lenses, that you got them in the right orientation. But that went in all just fine. And I'm still working on this piece here. This is drying. We got this painted in the black color that it calls for, right back there around the border. And that's the black color that it calls for here in the instructions. And then I've been working on the saddlebags and the seat. And you'll kind of notice that I didn't really paint these a dark black color that it calls for. This is supposed to be semi-gloss X18. And I'm going to kind of make these as if they've been out in the sun for a while. They've been kind of faded. So I've already started that process. The way that I started this is that after I got it all glued in, got the seams all taken care of, I then gave it a coat of Tamiya gray primer, waited for that to dry, and then I just dusted on the semi-gloss black paint until I got to a color that I was happy with. And then I'm going to finish up the weathering using a combination of powders and pigments. And I'll show you what that looks like. And then also too, I'm going to do the details of all these little rivets around, these little detail rivets around the perimeter of the bag and also around the seat in this area right and through here as well. So I'm continuing working on all that. This process right here, just the bags getting in the seat, getting that all primed and sanded and ready to go, this all took about 3 hours. This didn't take very long at all. Neither did the windshield. That's very simple. But just getting these in, sanding them down, getting rid of the seam that goes through the side back here, and also down and through here, even though you're not going to see it, I get rid of the seam down there. And then waiting for the the gray primer to dry and then giving it a coat of the X18 black and waiting for that to thoroughly dry basically took about 3 hours to do. So anyway, I'm going to continue on with all this, and when it's all done, we'll come back and we'll assemble it on the bike. Okay, I'm still working on step 20, and I have all but painted up the saddlebags and the seat, as you can see. This is how I've done the seat. And the way I've painted this, after I did all the sanding, is that I primed it in Tamiya gray primer. And then after the primer was completely dry, I then lightly airbrushed X1, Tamiya X1, which is black, even though the instructions call for semi-gloss. And I just lightly airbrushed that on there, showing a little bit of the gray primer, because I wanted this to look a little worn. I didn't do it a lot, I just did it a little bit. As you can see, hopefully this can pick up on the camera. And then I took some silvering powder, which is this right here. This is the chrome polish that I used, and I'll put a link in the descriptions and where I got this. And I brushed it on to the clasps that you see here. And you'll notice too that I've also did it a little bit around the edges to kind of like highlight some shadowing. I wanted to show that the saddlebag has been out in the sun, it's been faded a little bit, it's been worn a little bit, and the edges are starting to wear off the black, or the black is starting to wear off on the sides. So that's the effect I was trying to get. And then I took, again, some X1, Tamiya X1, and I then dry brushed around the saddlebag to give it a little bit more of depth of color, depth of dimension, bringing in some more shadowing, and to also tone down the silvering, because I also wanted to get some silvering on the clasps, as you can see there. And then you also notice that on the end of the straps has a little bit of shine around the edges to show that the straps have been worn a little bit. So that's what I've done. And I basically did the same thing on the seat as well. Okay. Now the other thing that I'm doing is that I'm using these photo etches that came from this kit here, which is the kit that we're working on. And I'm taking these little tiny dots right here that you can see I've already used quite a few of them so far. And this is called for in the instructions for this kit, but it's only calling for it on the saddlebags. But I've decided to use it on the seats and everything else. That's all leather. So the way I'm doing it, I'm going to try to show you how I'm doing it, but this is the progress that I've made so far on that. Coming out like that. And it's coming out really, really well. Okay, now I may not have enough of these to do all of them because the instructions are only calling it for the saddlebags. If I do run out, fortunately, I keep my detail upsets from previous kits, and I have the same pieces in this kit as well if I run out of those little round dots. Now I'm going to try to show you how I'm doing this. I don't know if I'm going to be successful or not, but I'm going to zoom in real close. There we go. And I'm going to try to show you how I do this. So the first thing that I do is that I very carefully remove these little dots from this card. And I just do that by very gently picking it up with my knife. Let's see if I can't show you that I can do this. And I do need to get my head glass magnifying headset on. But I very gently put my finger up there as close as I can because I don't want to flick this. If you flick these, then they can actually fly off everywhere. Then I'm going to take a little bit of micro crystal clear right here, and I'm going to put a very, very, very tiny dot, very tiny as I possibly can at the end of this toothpick. I'm just going to dip it in there very gently. Just get a little tiny dot of that glue on the toothpick. And that will then allow me to pick up that little dot, just like that. And I very gently lay that down so I can get it onto my board. I don't know if you can see that or not, but I've got it on my board now, which is right at the tip of that toothpick. Okay, now I'm going to bring over my part. Then I'm going to take my pen vise and dap it into a little bit of super glue, just as little as I can. I'm going to do a little tiny dot of glue where I want this to go, just like that, a little tiny dot there. Then I take my toothpick, I pick up my dot, like you can see there, and then I very gently place it on top of that glue area, hold it in for a second or two, and now it's in place. Okay, now that we have our saddlebags done and our rivet details are all in, looking like that, we have these two details that we need to put on, and this one here goes on this bag, and you'll know that there is a lug hole here and an indent and a couple little slots on this side. That's going to line up to this post that we see here, and then this post here also has a lug on that. So the way this goes in is that this aligns up like that, looking just like that, and then those two tabs at the bottom will line up underneath. Okay, and there's our bags all done, looking like that, with our detail pieces on the back, looking like that. And then we also have our lights, and then we have the backlight here, and then we have our seat, all painted up with those rivet details, looking just like that. I really hope you enjoyed this video, finding it very informative with the build tips, painting and modifications, and the assembly, and it has helped you with your build or perhaps inspired you to get this for yourself. Now, I was hoping to complete this model in this video, but it took longer than expected. I'm trying to keep this series to about no more than 35 minutes, and I think I exceeded that by 5. But in the next video, which will be coming out soon, we will complete this model starting from step 21 and going all the way through to step 23. And with that, I hope you give me a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed, please remember to hit that subscribe button and that bell icon so you can be notified of new videos that are posted. Other than that, always have fun in your garage, your workshop, or wherever it is you build your models. And until next time, thanks for watching.